Once Kylie gets ready and gets the live stream going, we're gonna start. Great. Okay, folks, I think we're ready to go. So I'd like to welcome everyone here to this special session of Council for the Town of Greater Napanee this Thursday of September 2024. And what we'll do now is we'll call the meeting to order. Just before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that this evening, I believe you'll be on there forever and ever and ever. So thank you, folks, for coming. We've got an extremely healthy crowd here, which is really good because it shows that we have a lot of people within our community that are concerned about our community and they want to see the best for it. So thank you, everyone. Again, just before we get started, before we do an adoption of the agenda, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. This evening's meeting has been spurred on because we had a lot of interest at our 27th of August meeting with respect to our parks and cannabis bylaw that we're looking at trying to institute. So obviously we didn't have the room at Town Hall to have everybody there, so we decided very early on that we would have a special meeting to hear the concerns of the folks that live in this municipality. So that's what tonight's about. Yeah, just George, behave yourself, okay? Let's not get started early because I think we're going to have to deal with it. What we're going to do is we're going to allow the folks, we've had a sign-up list at the back, and we've got at least 15 names, and there's probably another 5 or 6 that'll come up here before the end of the meeting. We're going to allow people to share their experiences, talk about their concerns, and we want to hear what folks think about their community with respect to the homeless situation in encampments. I think we got to be very, very focused with respect to the things that we have the ability to and the things that we don't have the ability to do. And I'm hoping that most of you do, if not all of you, had the ability or had the opportunity to look or watch our meeting from the 27th of August. And if not, I would encourage you to go back and watch that meeting. I'd also encourage you to pull the reports up and read the reports because the reports from Madam Clerk, Jessica Walters, and Mr. Grant, the CAO, are good reports. They're very thorough reports, and they're very helpful to the situation that we're going to have, the discussions that we're going to have this evening. The other thing I just want to ensure is that we're all respectful to the process, and we're going to be respectful to the people who are involved in that process. I'm going to police that. I've got a little experience in policing, and I'm going to police that this evening. So I would ask that everyone be respectful. I know that the topic tonight is it can generate a lot of tension, it can generate a lot of opinions, but we need to be respectful. We're going to try and find a way forward from this. So, having said all that, I know that there's going to be people that are going to walk up this evening and say, I didn't get anything out of this meeting, I didn't learn anything, but I just want to assure that this isn't the last meeting that we're going to have with respect to this. This is simply the first one. So there's going to be more public consultation. There's going to be another public meeting near the 1st of October, at least the first week of October, in which it won't necessarily be a council meeting, but we're going to have all our partners come, and there'll be an opportunity to hear from all our partners within the community as to what their goals are with respect to this and how they're trying to deal with it. So. And of course, there will be public consultation when you're closer to enacting the bylaw with respect to the parks and our encampments situation. So, having said all that, we'll get started. And it's going to be a long evening. I'm hoping it's going to be a productive evening, and we'll go from there. So, having said all that, we'll call the meeting to order. Look for the motion of the adoption of the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Items for discussion. You'll see if you pull up the agenda package, there was a meeting overview. There was some background material with respect to this evening's meeting, and there were some written comments that were included within that agenda. Since the time of posting the agenda, we received some more comments, and so what's going to happen is after this evening's meeting, those comments will be posted as well on this agenda, so that you'll have an opportunity to peruse and go through that as well. So, having said all that, we'll start our deputation process. We've got a long list, folks, and as we go through these, I'll call the people up. They'll have an opportunity to speak. It'll be 5 minutes. Madam Clerk has been so gracious to run the time clock for me this evening again. And I know we've done that in the past, and it's worked very well. So we're going to stick very stringent to the time, the 5-minute time limit, because we do have a large number of speakers here this evening. So first up on the list is Kaylee Campton. Is Kaylee here? Kaylee Campton. Okay, looks like we're, oh, I see somebody coming up from the back, so. Woo! I'm thinking that might be Kaylee.
Katie.
Sorry, Katie, yeah. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be. Sorry with that, Katie. So you know the rules of engagement. Microphone should be on. You'll have 5 minutes, and whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
So for some of you that don't know me, I'm the one who took the video and sent it to local news. Unfortunately, I had to. I didn't want to go around telling people what was going on at the parks. I'm embarrassed. Every other day there's a kid getting hurt. My neighbor. My neighbor almost got beat up by a couple of homeless people. And I feel so sad to say that. If I didn't stand up and do something, I'm scared something else would have happened. And all I have to say is I want the community to start doing something. I'm sick and tired of hearing a little boy cry because someone tries to steal his fishing rod. I'm sick and tired of kids screaming and crying because someone is inappropriate to them. I've seen a man can't even put up his pants when he's in a porta potty and shows a little girl his private parts. And I just have to stop. The park is no longer safe. And it's a beautiful park. I grew up here, and it's sad to see it. I grew up seeing this park being my sanctuary. Now, it's not even fun to go to the skate park. It's not fun to go at the splash pad. But when I was a kid, it was a pool. We spent $2 to go swimming with our family. And a lot of kids do still go there. But unfortunately, I just don't want to see kids being shown private parts of areas. When it's unsafe, people yelling and screaming, trying to do something towards them, and it's inappropriate. And I just think at the end of the day, it just needs to stop.
As we do in all our dedications and regular sessions at council, I'm going to canvass council just to see if they have any questions or comments. I think your presentation was fairly straightforward. I'm going to canvass members of council after each dedication just to see if there's anything each other. Okay. Members of council, is there any questions or comments that you would have of Katie with respect to her presentation? Go ahead, Deputy Carl.
When you contact the police over the video, how long did it take?
Sorry. When you contacted the police over that incident, how long did it take the police to respond to that?
They were pretty quick. Yeah, they were.
Were they okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie, and you're welcome in your comments. Next on our list is Brooke Walker. Is there Brooke Walker? Brooke Walker. Yep, I see a hand back there. So. Go ahead, Brooke, whenever you're ready. Take your time. You've got 5 minutes. It doesn't seem like a long time, but it really is when you're after the top.
I won't take too much of your time, thank you. I stand before you today as someone who's walked a path Many of us fear, but too few of us understand the path of homelessness. Just over 10 years ago, I found myself in a place I never imagined I'd be. In a shelter, pregnant with my son, wondering how I ended up on the streets. I had just barely escaped that harsh reality, evicted from a place I called home because I couldn't afford the rent. It was a moment of profound loss and deep despair, a moment when the world felt like it was collapsing around me, and I had nowhere left to turn. But life, as often as it does, threw more challenges my way. Just a little over a year ago, I found myself teetering on the edge of homelessness once again. This time, it was in a cockroach and bed-bug infested apartment building, a place where my children and I had lived. And no matter what I did, the bugs returned. My kids would come home with bed bugs clinging to them, and I was forced to endure the humiliation and exhaustion of treating our home for bed bugs 4 times over 3 years. The roaches weren't any kinder, requiring another 3 treatments within the same time frame. It felt like I was stuck in an endless cycle of infestation and anxiety, unable to provide a safe haven my children deserved. And as if the weight wasn't any heavier, I lost my husband. The man who was my partner, my support, my children's father. His death shattered our lives, leaving me to navigate the storm without him. As a result of his death, I couldn't afford to take time off work, but without daycare for my 2 children working seemed impossible. The fear of losing everything again was overwhelming. I was caught in a cruel paradox. I needed to work to keep a roof over our heads, but I needed childcare to work, the full-time job that I needed to stay financially afloat. The walls were closing in, and I could feel the threat of homelessness creeping up once more. But in the midst of this darkness, a light appeared. My best friend. Someone who saw my struggle in my depression, extended a hand when I needed it the most. She offered me her home to rent, a chance to rebuild, to find a job, and a secure daycare for my children here in Napanee. It was more than just a place to live. It was hope. It was a future. It was a lifeline when I was drowning. I want to share that this was a big blessing and not a reality for most unhoused people. It was a miracle to find clean and safe housing for myself and my children. I share this story not because I want sympathy, but because I want to remind each of us that homelessness can happen to anyone. It's not just a story on the news or a statistic in a report. It's real and it's very personal. It's a mother trying to protect our children, a family fighting to stay together, a person searching for hope in a world that often seems indifferent. And it's a battle we cannot fight alone. So today I stand not just as a survivor of homelessness, but as a testament to the power of community, of friendship, and never giving up. We must be there for one another, offering that hand when someone is falling. And remember that even in our darkest moments, there's always a chance for light to break through. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Just for a second, Brooke. Just take that for a second, just in case there may be some questions.
Sure,
about council with
absolutely.
respect here. Is there any questions of Brooke, Councilman? No, seeing none. Thanks, Brooke. Much appreciated. Next up, we have Leanna Green. Leanna? Yeah, there's Leanna right there. Come on up, Leanna. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
All right. Almost every day I go to the park twice a day with my daughter. She's very particular. We have to walk by the boats. We have to walk by the falls. Everything is very particular. She has to count the boats. She has to count how many fish she thinks are in the water. The other day, as we were counting boats and prepared to go to the park, we met a woman named Angela. Angela Tyrones. She's in her 60s, newly unhoused. So she was sitting by the river charging her phone and her portable DVD player. She has such a kind face, rather fit woman dressed in clean, camping-like clothes. clearly not suffering from any mental illness or other things. She reminded me of my dad. My dad has been living in an apartment building for 20 years and never needing much, never wanting more. This huge grinning woman also had been living quietly for 20 years in an apartment on Richmond Street with her roommate, John Moon. Then, a few months ago, a fire took everything from them. Without apartment insurance, because they were grandfathered in, they lost their home and found themselves living in a tent by the water in waiting. Not knowing where to go, they just stayed close. Didn't know where else to go. They wanted to go back home. They asked me for nothing. We chatted for a while. I shook her hand. She's real. I went back the next day and asked if I could share their story with all of you today, and she said, please do, and use our names. They said, please, you want to get back into our home. They have another apartment in that place. Maybe they could get us in there, but they've just been given the runaround. They hired lawyers. They don't have a lot, but the lawyers are working for free. She told me her story because I asked, and I kept asking more. She wasn't asking for pity or charity. She spoke with calm acceptance, like she was just simply telling a kind, friendly neighbor about her day. She commented about how adorable my daughter's hair is. It really is. And we were just enjoying the day, just shooting the breeze. I actually spoke to 4 other people that week as well. Some of them in their 60s, very vulnerable. They've been together for years, the 2 that I had spoken with, and they gave me permission to say their name. And I just can't imagine, it's just unimaginable what they're facing right now. The only complaint she had was her hands were slightly cold now that the weather was changing. I couldn't help but think of my dad, of course, as he religiously takes DVDs out of the library, and how easily it could be him because he also doesn't have apartment insurance and refuses to get it. A single event beyond anyone's desire, and suddenly life is upside down. If these 2 kind Napanee residents are not asking for much, they just want to be treated with dignity, to have a place to sleep, to watch a movie borrowed from the library, just like my dad. As the weather gets colder, I wonder about them and others like them. Behind that tent is a person who's lost almost everything waiting to get housing. You've seen the statistics, it's hard to get housing. They could be your father, your brother, your friend. One of them is my friend. You've met her, Brooke. Every one of us deserves a chance to get back on our feet. No matter how we get knocked down, I hope their story helps you to know that, because I can't imagine what they're going through. Can you?
Council, is there any questions you'd like to ask Anna? Councilor Harris.
Thank you for sharing the story. And my only question is, if you're given the information for Prince Edward Lands and Social Services, could you pass that on to them? If we have your contact information, maybe you can relay that.
I'll do that. I guess we walk by them every day.
Okay.
Every day I walk by and we say hi to everybody we see. I've taught my daughter that we say hi to everyone we see, every person.
And good on you. Good on you. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanna. Next up, we have Steve Baldwin. Nice and close. Go ahead, Steve. You know the rules here, so go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Your Worship and town councilors. Thank you for hearing me today. Most of you know, I have owned a business in downtown Napanee for about 35 years, adjacent to the river and the Lions Park. My home is attached to my business, and every day I look out my window at the tenants more and more every day, and at the people. And I went down and talked to them numerous times, and I watched them shoot up and pass out, collapsing into their tents at times. I have emergency vehicles with lights flashing all hours of the nights, and almost every day out my window. My grandbabies, whenever they come to visit their grandkids, they're scared. We can't use the parks anymore. They jump into bed with me at night sometimes because they hear things out the back window of the house, which is where the bedroom is. beds upstairs. So they eventually get scared and crawl into bed with me. I walk out my back door in the morning, my gate's open. It's frustrating how we simply talk and talk and talk and more talk about how nothing can be done. A lot of these people, I do have a lot of compassion for the homeless, but some of these people, they do not answer to the same set of rules as we do, and yet nothing is done. I see the police come, nothing's done. They continue to break the law, nothing's done. If I was doing the same thing, I would be incarcerated. Back in December, I was reluctant to mention this at all, but back in December, I was involved in an incident where I accidentally ran over a woman who OD'd in front of my truck and was unconscious. Since then, after being in shock for months and me wondering if she was okay, constantly asking the police if she was okay, if I could visit her, and I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars to defend myself, as 2 months later I was actually charged for careless driving causing bodily harm. Someone who has not had a ticket since I was a teen. You won't go there. The police have even uttered I probably did her a favor, as she required surgeries for her injuries and got cleaned up in the hospital and later was reunited with her family in Guelph. I recently heard that she's back into drugs again and back out on the street once more. I do not know where she is. We are failing miserably to protect our taxpayers. After 35 years in business, raising a family in our beautiful town, losing my wife, my house is now up for sale because I don't want to live here anymore. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Let's see if council has any questions for you. Is there any council's questions of Steve? Council? Seeing none? Thanks, Steve. Next up on the list is Sean Lucas. Sean? Oh, there you are. Floor is yours, Sean, when you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Lucas. For those who don't know me, I'm a lifelong resident of Greater Napanee. I live downtown. I own several businesses downtown. I work closely with Pellis, and full disclosure, I'm one of the landlords that Pellis engages with to provide shelter for homeless and displaced people. I also work with Morningstar Mission and Kevin Alcaprak when I can and on a routine basis. I consider myself community-minded and try to stay informed. And finally, I choose to live downtown. I can live anywhere I want, but I am a resident downtown and I'm proud of it. Council was wise to host this public meeting tonight. There are times that you don't have answers, you hit roadblocks, you seek community input. I'm assuming this is one of those times. Pellis, for those who don't know, Pellis is the organization that provides shelter and housing for people in need and whatever. I think, and I've told Pellis this 100 times, this organization within this county is a role model for the rest of the province. Partnering with community members, private people, is the way to go, and the most efficient ways of providing shelter for displaced people. Homelessness, in my mind, there's 3 categories: mental illness, drug addiction, and affordability. Holistically, we as a society are failing nationally, provincially, regionally, and locally. What's been enacted the last 10 or 12 years is not working. It's actually getting worse. In the last few weeks, downtown we've had a murder, a rooming house burned down, an assault in a public place. I know the guy personally, it's a wonder he wasn't killed. And we had an attempted fire at Napanee Beaver, which could have burnt the whole block down, including accommodations for special needs people in the adjacent building. Napanee is a great place to raise a family and beautiful part of the country. This is the Provincial Minister of Finance who visited our area to announce a $70 million water plant expansion, which could include, I think I'm correct, up to 4,000 houses. My mother's always said, it takes 10 steps to climb the ladder and 1 to fall. I think we're on the 11th step today. I believe in the minister's quotes, and that's why I'm here tonight. Personally, I've had an extended family member who lives downtown. He trims his grass and his hedges in full body gear, from face masks to gloves to helmets and jackets, because he's afraid of having a needle strike him from trimming the grass. I've had a senior citizen tenant who is watched and followed from the bank when they go back to their apartment because the beggar's looking for money. I rent to a community organization who has been victimized twice this year with a hostile unit takeover. If you don't know what that means, I'm happy to explain it to you later. I've had homeless people sleeping in the common area of some of my buildings, including my own. I've had homeless people defecating at the entranceway of my properties. If you don't know what defecating means, look it up. And I'm sure this will give you the picture. My action step recommendations. Number 1, revisit our municipal bylaws for loitering, standing groups of people 3 or more, damaging public property, dumping garbage, panhandling, and defecating in public spaces. You know, in the old days, that was a problem. But now it's an accepted practice. And that's not appropriate. We need to get back to the basics of minimal community standards. Enact a bylaw, no overnight camping on public land. Provincial parks do this, private properties do this. We have no parking. We have no parking in our parking areas in the wintertime, and the same should be done for this. Enact a curfew bylaw, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. That gives the police the power if they want to do something with someone who shouldn't be where they are at a certain time. Initiate a marketing campaign for single-family homes, non-use commercial properties, sublet apartments, and for shelter space. In the 1970s, the province of Ontario initiated a housing and rehabilitation program that allowed property owners to upgrade their housing units with long-term loans. That saved Mill Street, that saved Water Street, that saved a lot of properties. And this allowed people to rehabilitate their homes. I think we're at the stage now where the province and the local municipalities should allow people to create secondary living units within their own properties.
That's the alarm clock, so we gotta shut it down right now, so. Just hang tight. Is there any questions for Sean before he goes back to the seat? Seeing none. Thanks, Sean. We have a chat.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, 5 minutes is really hard to detail stuff, and I'm happy to share with council. Thank you.
Yeah, and there will be an opportunity, Sean. Thanks for looking at we're nowhere near the end. We're nowhere near the end of this story. So obviously, and tonight's public meeting isn't the all and the end all for any kind of comments. So we're always going to take comments, either email, phone calls. We're all very accessible with thoughts of how we can try and resolve this issue. So thanks, Sean. Next up, we have James Head. Jim Head. I know you're here. The doctor here. Whenever you get settled in there, James, we'll start the clock on the floor of yours.
On behalf of the residents of Baker Street, Orange Smart Villa, the bottom of West Street, and Water Street area that all lives around the Morningside mission. Our basic statement is we want this mess to be removed, make our neighborhood safe. Our rights are being violated. From the start of February 2024, the homeless druggies, excuse me for calling them druggies because I've met them all and they are druggies. 30 to 40 of them, detectives moved into our neighborhood. I would go across the street and ask them each day to help pick up their garbage along the riverfront. Within 6 weeks, there was at least two dump trucks of garbage. Rats are now starting to be seen. I talked to over 23 of these druggy homeless people. My question was to them, do you not want a home, a roof over your head? You are classed as homeless. We do not care, is their statement to me. We are classed as homeless, that's not important to us. This is the way we want to live. This is our new community, our way of life. The way we want to live. This is the statement they would tell me. I asked them, but what is your most important in life? What are you living for? The number one thing is we're here for our drugs. We're here secondly for our alcohol. We're here third for our sex. We're fourth for our food. We like our free clothing. We like our hangouts. And we like you people to obey what we tell you. We need to put them in their own business. What we need to do is put them in their own designated society, away from their residents, homes, owners, parks, and our children. Just last Thursday, a couple were doing crack cocaine down by the river in front of my home. They told me they were in their legal right, and I was not allowed to take pictures in the riverside, but they were there. They verbally attacked me. What these homeless druggies do in our parks and our community is a crime. For what they get away with is a crime. They're living in a lifestyle they want to live because they can get away with it. Do-gooders are giving these crime drug criminals more rights than the law-abiding person. Help us make us
Thanks, Council, is there any questions with respect to Mr. Head's presentation?
I've lived with these people across from them, and I can tell you a lot more stories.
Yeah, thanks, Jim, I'm sure you can. So, if there's no questions, we appreciate you coming out tonight and
Well, thank you.
sharing your experience. Next up, we have Radman. I think that's what it is. It's hard to read it right, but I think I hear it.
I know I call it Sean, so it's okay.
Sir, you see the way this evening's going, so you can, whenever you're ready, you'll have 5 minutes, and then just hang tight afterwards, and listen to questions. So, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'll try to talk fast because I timed myself at 4.5 minutes at home. And I want to get to the end. Thank you to the Mayor and Council for calling this meeting. I'm Bob Froman, and my wife Jean and I live at 473 Palace Road. That's the part of Palace Road that's what's supposedly in the 50-kilometer zone. We have a very difficult problem to solve. Napanee has a problem. County Glennie controls the budget for social services and year-to-income housing. Hopefully we have some county council members here in addition to our mayor and deputy mayor. As far as I know, that's correct. I've been diligent in my research. I'm correct there. Ian Monroe and Marilyn Kendall's letter that is listed on this meeting's agenda is an excellent read. We need to understand families affected by what is happening this year. A tent in front of Wallace's store is unacceptable. Unsolicited comments from a couple of ladies. They're very uncomfortable about walking downtown. And that was before the tent went up. There's my counselor. But that's before the tent went up in front of Wallace's. The problem with Mill, and maybe is already affecting our downtown businesses. We don't live in a small town anymore. We're not a city like Belleville and Kingston, but our town is large and attracts people. Retirees from other areas, they buy homes, populate our newer apartment buildings, and also attract unhoused people that need services and encampments for living space. We have 3 supermarkets. We have 900 places to buy groceries. We have 9 pharmacies, credit union, 5 banks, 5 major banks, and meth clinic, hospital with 24-hour emergency services, water, several churches and organizations that help the less fortunate, the food bank, mental health and addiction services, Morning Star Mission, and geared to income and transitional housing. We're well equipped. The problem with all of municipalities across Canada with services is the same. The article in June's Claim magazine detailed what works and what hasn't worked in various communities. It's a really long read, but it's a really good one. I read it a couple of times. One city surveyed their unhoused population, and the #1 problem of people being in encampments was not drugs or addictions, but financial. No affordable housing. In a social services report, and that was attached to tonight's meeting, and hopefully people in the audience will go home with their computer. If they haven't, they'll read it because it's really good information to understand what's happening here. In the social services report, they keep the list of those in transitional housing and the unhoused. They could probably confirm that drugs and addictions are not the only problem putting our citizens on the street. And at this time, I say thank you to our first two speakers. From the social services report present at last council meeting on August 27th on housing and homelessness, average one-room bedroom rent in Napanee is $1,463. Shelter allowance for Ontario Works is $390. Those are the people that have run out of employment insurance or do not qualify. The unemployment rate is 6%. It's a real thing for people. Yes, there's jobs available, but they have criteria. There's people that can't find jobs. ODSP, or Ontario Disabilities, the shelter allowance is $582 a month. It's hard to qualify for ODSP. These people are not employable for various reasons. Minimum wage for 40-hour week is $25.05. The senior living on OAS supplement and gains minimum income is $24.20. The rent apartment, there's not much left over for groceries and the rest of life. A valid comment I read is that we could magically solve the addictions and drug problems, we'd still have encampments. Maybe not as big as they are, but we'd still have encampments. We've got a problem across the country. If you read the social services report that was attached to the meeting's notice, we have a number of people in transitional housing ready for apartments. That's right here in Napanee, but none are available for affordable rent. If these people found rental accommodation, there'd be room for some of our unhoused people. What seems to be a temporary solution in some areas is to designate a specific location where the tents are allowed, and they supply the area with toilets, water, garbage bags, garbage pickup, and it also centralizes the population for other services. All I had left to say left was thank you.
That's perfect. We've reached the end, but thank you very much for your presentation. See if anyone has any questions, Mr. Adam. Seeing none, thank you, sir. Very well presented, and I really appreciate that. So,
Thank you.
Great idea.
next up, we have Emily Farnay. Sorry about that. Yeah.
It's all right.
There's a bunch of letters together there, I can't put together, so, Emily, whenever you're ready, comfortable,
Hello. Everybody else had notes, and I am just kind of improvising, but I wanted to make my voice heard just because I believe it's important for people my age to show an interest in the health of their town. I didn't see a homeless person in real life until I was in my early 20s. I mean, I'm still in my early 20s. You can tell how bad I am without a strength, oh my goodness. But I saw them in Belleville, and I remember thinking, Belleville and Kingston and the surrounding cities have issues because they're so big. Napanee is never going to have a problem like that because we're tiny and, and now we have a homeless problem so profound that we need a special, separate meeting to address it. I don't feel comfortable downtown. I think a lot of people agree with that statement. My mother and I are both very anxious people, and we don't do well with confrontation on a good day. And as you can imagine, it's become extremely rough that the prospect of being attacked or yelled at, or, you know, just having to deal with a person who's living on the sidewalk. That's not something that we want to deal with every single day. I had this thing in my head that I wanted to say about, I think the term is broken window theory, that having your surroundings be messy, some people will see that and take it as an invitation to be messy themselves. And I think that in the downtown area, if you have people that are leaving their garbage and their waste and everything in one big cluttered mess, it's going to send a message to the citizens who may even have homes that it's okay to litter and it's okay to maybe smoke in a non-smoking area or something like that. I want to send the message that Napanee is a respectful town that isn't messy, that people aren't afraid to go out in public. I want the town back. I want the town that I used to have. I want the town that I'm not afraid of. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Just hang tight. Is there any questions of Emily? Go ahead, Councilor Harris.
Thank you, Your Worship. Emily, I just want to say thank you, because I get the impression it took a lot for you to come up here and speak tonight, so thank you, and you made a very, very valid point.
I appreciate it. I
Thank you.
think I'm going to keep attending meetings like this in the future.
Thanks, Emily. Our next deputation will be Eugene Patel. Eugene Patel. Yep, he's on his way out. Mr. Lucas is on his way out.
Your Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to read a deputation that Mr. Patel was looking to present tonight. Unfortunately, I have a death in the family, couldn't attend, and asked me to read it.
Under those circumstances, normally I would say no, but under those circumstances, Mr. Lucas, we're going to allow it, okay?
Sean Lucas is reading this on my behalf in the town of Napanee Council Minutes regarding my experience running the parties. Some of the issues with the homeless people in the town does not only stem from not being able to afford or rent, dealing with addiction, mental illness, but can also be from people destroying rental units they live in. As a landlord in town, one of my homeless people currently in Napanee that has been seen by townspeople as homeless due to his own actions. This gentleman started problems as a tenant by harassing other good tenants in the building, as well as allowing random homelessness people in and out of the secured building. This has led to my other tenants feeling unsecured and the mess in the garbage left by strangers in the hallways for me to deal with. This problem tenant started to punch out, dismantle hallway light balusters outside his apartment door and cut a large hole in the hallways. This individual was also threatening behavior and language with the other tenants. The one neighbor felt so threatened that he had to leave the unit and stay with the family, and for quite some time, he no longer felt safe in his own apartment. OPP was called dozens of times by numerous people, and they were helpful, but they could not de-escalate the individual's behavior. Again and again, this tenant has spoken to our police with little change in his behavior. I have incurred over $20,000 of damage in over about 6 months, both the unit and the building. There was a court order against him saying that he would no longer attend the address unless accompanied by the police, which I have completely accommodated by. There's a legal request by the tribunal for the eviction currently waiting for its trial due to this tenant's own behaviors and actions. The tribunal process can take up a year to process, and the landlord has to pay the costs associated with the request to evict. He also has ordered he's also been ordered to pay back small remuneration to myself for the damage to the property, but he has not paid me 1 single cent. The question now is, who's the real victim here? In some cases, it's the actual landlords who have been victimized by horrible tenants that use the system and the laws to protect themselves. As a landlord, I feel I have less rights on a person than the actual tenants after this experience. Unfortunately, this has led me to consider over time to refurbish my unit, leave them empty, unrented as they become available. This experience has had a profoundly detrimental effect on my health and well-being and left a sour taste in my mouth for being a landlord. I'm positive other landlords have what I'm considering and are not renting out the units anymore. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. It's already very difficult for you to answer the questions from Mr. Patel. We won't do that right now, so.
Mr. Patel, for those who know, is a pharmacist by trade. He's a professional person, and he was offering the unit in question to a gentleman $625 a month.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thanks, Sean. Next up, we have Mary Kirkland. Mary Kirkland? When you're comfortable, Mary, all over yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm relatively new to Napanee, having lived across Canada, but grew up in Eastern Ontario, so I kind of get the vibe here. I just wanted to speak as a new resident of 5 years on behalf of my street, being John Street, that there is a level of fear and concern, and I know this is why this meeting is happening. So I just wanted to let you all know that, and I appreciate the forward thinking on this situation. You know, I've lived in Toronto, I've lived in Vancouver. It's a difficult one. It really is. I just wanted to say, I hope there's bylaws that exist right now that can help with the transitional housing situation, because I don't think it's just the homeless, but it's the actual concentration within a building of transitional residents for their safety and the safety of our neighborhood. I just implore you to use whatever bylaws exist now, fire, safety, to have the residents of Napanee feel like we are considered. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Do any members of council any questions for Mary? Seeing none, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point, though, is that.
I think there's bylaws existing, and I applaud you all for considering them. Thank you.
And I think the point that really sticks on with your presentation is that we're all in this together. And there's no one agency, no one group of people that has the ability to solve the homeless problem. We at the town of Greater Napanee are just trying to stay on our lane and deal with the things that we have the ability to deal with, and we'll be partners with the things that we don't have the ability to fix. But that's, I think you're going to do it.
It's very complex, and I just want to say, I believe everybody in Napanee who's a citizen is doing their part. We can only do so much, so we implore you to help us. Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have Natalie Kleinsmith. Am I close? Natalie? Welcome, and you're comfortable and you want to start with one of yours.
Thank you for saying my name right.
Every once in a while,
I didn't bring any notes either, so it's more off the top of my head. I've lived here now for 5.5 years in Napanee. If I was not with my better half, I would move. I have never felt more uncomfortable. I do live right on Water Street. What we do. 20 plus years ago, when we did buy the house there, it was a beautiful neighborhood. It used to be a senior's home. And then once the seniors were all vacated, it was run down by, I guess it's geared to income housing. I'm not sure exactly what 34 Water Street is. And since then, it's just gone to pot, from what I understand since then. We live kitty corner from Morningstar Mission. We watched defecating, drug use, OPP have been called, bylaw officers have been confronted, and nothing will get done. They're putting blame on each other, like one will say, the OPP will say, well, go to the bylaw. The bylaw will say, go to the OPP. So it goes back and forth. I just want as a community that maybe some bylaws can be put in place as far as the control of the homelessness, as far as the encampments, that maybe there's a resolution where they can all be put into one area. I know that was brought up in last meeting. I know a lot of them probably won't want to be all designated to one area, but if we can actually feel safe going out into the neighborhoods, like I sometimes work night shifts. When I come home at night, I don't want to have to hear people yelling at me as I'm trying to get into my house, because it scares me. And I know I'm not the only one that goes to school the same thing. But as a community, I'm just hoping that maybe in time, we can actually work together and make it safe again.
Yeah, well.
Thanks, any questions or comments for that? Seeing none, thanks, Natalie, you bring up some good points, and I think that our meeting, or the public meeting we're gonna have at the end of October is probably gonna answer a lot of those questions, and if I haven't said it already, I am gonna say it now, is that staff, we have a number of staff here that are listening and taking notes, so all your concerns, all your questions as to how we can do things, why we should do things, and what we can't do are all gonna be addressed, or at least we're hoping they're gonna be addressed, over the course of the next 4 to 5, 6 weeks, so, just want to let everybody know that we are listening, we're taking notes. So, next up, we have Nick Normal. It's Nick. Oh, there he is, yeah. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks very much.
You're comfortable, ready to go for you.
Okay, can you hear me? I don't envy the position you guys are in to come up with a bylaw to deal with this situation. I mean, right across this country, it's the same thing everywhere I go. And we got a lot of difficult choices. What I know is it's a complicated problem. And small steps. That's about it. That's all you're going to be able to do. You know that your hands are tied in many ways. And so I hope that you'll look at this. And I like what you said tonight. You said what we can do, what we're able to do. And that's the way to think about it. And maybe one small step in the right direction. You know, I wrote down. I don't know if anybody knows where I live, but I live right across from Lions Park. I live right beside the Legion. My balcony faces right out on the park. And we had a celebration, my wife and I, this morning, because some of our residents moved on. And it was just a great day. I'm sorry to say that, but, you know, and I know there's people almost for lots of different reasons. That's not the one that I'm seeing. And I'll just gonna run the weekend. This is quick, I just jotted a few little notes. And Thursday evening, fire in front of my place, police and fire responded at 7:30. That was Thursday evening. Friday mid-morning, 5 OPP respond, exchanging with a woman in the park. I'm not there all the time. This is just while I was there, I saw this. Afternoon, pit bull running free, words exchanged between walker and campers over the dog. 6 o'clock, loud, vulgar screaming fight. Many people joined the campers, and it becomes quite a party that evening. Saturday night, more screaming and fighting. Police arrived 7:45. Saturday Saturday evening a little later, a man walking around with no pants or underwear on defecates on my lawn. Okay, doesn't have to be a horrible picture, but you know, that isn't all the picture. And I know there's other people that are homeless for different reasons, and I'm finding it very stressful. My mother lives on the other side of the building. She's 87 years old. She's lived here her whole life, and I worry about her. I worry about my wife when I'm not there. I worry about myself. And because the unpredictability of drugs and the type of drugs you're in, usually methamphetamine, some are on. The downers, most people are fine. They're gonna go to sleep. But the others are up all night and they're prowling. I watch them leave with their empty backpacks at about 11 o'clock at night, going to make your stuff their stuff. And that's about what happens. I watch them unloaded in the morning. I'm all sick of it. I wish you could do something about it, but I also know up against a wall with this one. And I wish for the best. And I do want to say, I'm just so proud of emergency responders in this town. Like there's been. It wasn't me calling. I've been accused by the campers of being the one called. I've never called them once, but they have responded whenever anyone is called, and they've been right on top of everything. And thankfully for that, things haven't escalated. Anyways, I really hope you can come up with something. I don't have any answers for you. I don't even have any answers for me. I keep thinking I can be some good, but I'm not.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll canvass council, see if there's any questions or comments. Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. And, moving on. Next on our list is Kyle Powell. Kyle Powell? There he is there. Yeah. Come on, Kyle. And I'd like to take a vote going later on in the agenda if you're kind of get an idea of what's going to work. So whenever you're comfortable and ready, the floor will be yours.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Everybody here? Okay, great. Thanks for having me. A couple things I want to chat about today. So, space for lawful to set up encampments, right? I realize the BC and Ontario Superior Courts ruled that basically you have to allow people to encamp in public spaces unless you have another place for them to go. So one of the previous speakers talked about that. So there is an ability, in case it is doing this as well, in order to generate a specific zone for the encampments to exist. So that is something that can be enforced in municipal bylaw, which is important for us to think about. And also what that space would look like in support of services without liability coming on to the city. Second thing is, issue discusses mitigating the migration of homelessness. So I personally have been affected by this in my family, and I know for a fact that the different various homeless centers to the larger cities actually put people that are unhoused on buses and send them across Ontario. So Guelph sends them to London, London sends them to Kingston, Kingston sends them to Ottawa. So they communicate through the HIFIS system, if you're not sure what that is. They communicate through that system, which is available. It's the Homeless Individual and Families Information System. And it collects data, and it allows the different shelters to talk to each other to find out where shelter space is available. And the reason this is important is because I don't think we want Napanee to become a homeless migration megacity, where it's beautiful and we do a really good job of taking care of them, and then all of the unhoused with drug addiction problems, etc., want to come to Napanee because they're taken care of. And now our taxes are going towards supporting people that are coming from other regions, vice Napanee people that are down the luck or have mental health issues or addictions, and we can look after our people first. So I think if we find a way through our municipal bylaws to track and record the people that are dealing with that are unhoused, then we can get a better idea of who we're supporting, which could lead to another bylaw on how we look at de-migrating or moving people back to regions where their home regions are to be supported by their municipalities. If they're pitching a tent here, and it's very beautiful to be in Napanee, well, they can pitch a tent back in Guelph instead of coming here because we're just a beautiful town with beautiful people that want to help, right? I think we should be looking at Napanee people first and then what we can do after that. That brings me to the how to do that. How do we do that? Well, mathematically, I think I read we spent $11,000 last year on sanitation services and things for the unhoused. Well, how do we come up with a municipal bylaw where there's a number? Okay, what does a number mean? Okay, so like Kingston right now is 480 unhoused for their population, and their joblessness rate is lower than ours. Ours is at 9.4% for a population just over 16,000, which leaves us at about 1,500 people that are jobless. And if you look at our unhoused compared to Kingston unhoused and our joblessness rate, ours is higher. So maybe there's a correlation here, maybe not causation when it comes to joblessness. We have a 2% vacancy rate in Napanee right now for shelter, for like home or landlord tenants, places that haven't rented. So do we come up with a number of how many people, a percentage based on our population size and our joblessness rate on how many people we can support? So can the city of Napanee support 50 unhoused people? Or can we support 150 unhoused people? And what's our limit? So outside of looking at what that is going to be for taxes on the average amount of care it takes to support one homeless person as that is available, how do we do that? Do we find that place off of Van Street, right? The parks regulations in Ontario are, you need a 50 by 50 foot spot to support four people with at least one encampment to support hygiene and preparation for food. Do we look at the Parks Canada regulations when we look at encampments? Do we look at the ability to access street outreach services through KFLA, through Kingston? Kingston has a larger system and mechanism when it comes to dealing with this. As people have known about their encampment, they've been dealing with off of Montreal Street and Bell Park. We're part of KFLA. So how do we look at accessing funding streams which can support our work instead of our taxes as well? Through the United Way and support of KFLA, there's other funding streams that we can use to look at this. And that way we can maybe think of 3 or 4 municipal bylaws that support the ability to zone the encampments, look at how many people that we can support as a city and what happens when we reach that limit, and also identifying people that are Napaneans, the fellow Napanites that need our support versus the migratory homeless population just growing. They may not have sanitation, they may not have indoor plumbing, but I'll tell you, almost everyone has a cell phone. My family member that went through this had a cell phone, had a tablet, and they use that stuff. And they track it, and they tell their fellow people from other cities, hey, come here, because you're going to get taken care of. So I think we need to look at all of these things and maybe come up with a few good municipal bylaws that are, not going to get shot down by the Ontario Superior Court or the Supreme Court, and I think we can do that.
Thanks. Seeing none, I just want to highlight some things that you said about. I would encourage everyone here this evening, if you look at the maps that are on the wall at the back of the building, on the wall of the building, please pull it up on the computer, or if you don't have access to a computer, we'll be able to provide copies of that at 99 advance. But the areas that are on those maps are the areas that we're looking at or hoping to put some regulations and bylaws with respect to it. And we're going to be looking for input with respect to those maps and the distances away from sensitive areas. So when we're done tonight, please take the time to either look at the maps that are in the building or pull them up on the computer, or like I say, if you don't have access to either of those, by all means stop at 99 advance to provide that information to you. So thanks. Our next deputation is Glenn Thompson. Glenn? Whenever you're ready and comfortable, Glenn, the floor is yours.
Hi to everybody. Good to see you again. I don't have very very much to say, because everybody's pretty well covered it. I have to say that last year I did go to Cambridge to look at an encampment that was built by this group. And so, I can't remember if it was Cambridge or Waterloo, but it was land donated by the town. They had fundraising to build 50 little houses out of containers, sea containers. Plus they put 4 sea containers, 4 40-footers together and built a common area. This area had 24-hour social services, so welfare, all the different things. Gave these people an address so they could get a check. When I spoke to the gentleman that was part of that, he said recently that a whole bunch of them had out transitioned to homes. So they helped them get rehabilitated. They helped them get into better housing and left openings for other people to come into these little houses. They're very well built. They have heat, hydro, cooling, actually put air conditioning in them. They're allowed to have 2 people in one of these. They could have an animal, a bicycle, whatever. But it was not in a direct urban area. It was on city land. It was outside of this, the streets, urban area. It was pretty convenient. They provided, they had a van, so people who need to go for appointments or whatever, they were given a ride. They were given a chance to better themselves with schooling, all kinds of different little things that are important to these people to help them rehabilitate. Not all of them were drug addicts. A lot of them were the same.
George, this is gonna be the last opportunity, okay?
You guys.
We've got people here.
Yeah.
That want to do a presentation.
Yeah.
It's very important to our community.
Yeah,
And we're not gonna be disrupted. You understand what I'm saying?
You gotta understand what I'm saying.
George? George?
I'm
You understand what I'm
guys
saying?
like you. Live on the streets.
George?
You're gonna hear from my voice.
You're on the list. We're gonna give you your
Good.
5 minutes, but you're
Good.
gonna have to behave and allow everyone else to say the
Yeah.
presentation.
I'm
sure that you do not want anybody to interrupt the presentation.
I wasn't
by yours.
interrupting, actually. I was clapping.
Yes,
Applauding.
clapping can wait till we're done.
Real. Oh,
Go
thank
ahead,
you
sir.
for controlling.
So, I went with another gentleman from Kingston to just see the feasibility of this and to see if we could do something to help out. The thing that came up, the biggest thing that came up was that we have all these empty buildings, schools, properties with fences, which a lot of these, so there's like we've discovered tonight, there's different grades of homelessness. So some people want to get out of homelessness, some people have drug addictions and they need help with that. But if you provide social services and a good surrounding for them, not everybody is going to go to there, but you're going to get a lot of them off. And there's funding for this. I'm not in that world of funding, you guys are. But there would be funding for that if it was done right. I proposed it to our MP in here, I proposed it to other people. I have all the literature on it. Peterborough's done it. I believe there's a couple more areas that are doing it. So it's something to examine to make sure. Brian knows my number. If you need more information, I'm more than happy to provide it. I'm more than happy to get involved in putting a team together to make something like that happen. I'm a builder, as some of you know, and I have a lot of connections in that world, and I think we could do something with that. We got to step forward. The cost of doing it the way we're doing it now, how much is it costing for all the police services, the ambulances, the fire department, the driving of the trucks to go pick up the garbage, the housing, that complex behind the new sewer plant that burned down, that could have been disastrous. So if we go in that direction and look at these other jurisdictions, we might learn that there are better ways of doing it. And there's ways of getting funding for that kind of stuff because it's real, it's tangible. It's not a joke. And these buildings that are sitting empty are going to end up being a problem. The roofs are going to start leaking if they're not already. They don't have heat in the winter, so they're going to be torn down buildings. And there's lots of them. Not just here, all over. That's what I have to say.
Great, thanks. Thanks for everything tonight. We'll see if does anyone have any questions for tonight? Seeing none, thank you, sir, and we'll move on. Next up, we have Ian Morrison. Ian? Yep, there he is. Welcome, sir. Again, it's easier going once you've seen the
bunch of other people in front of you, so whenever you're comfortable and ready, the floor is yours.
Through the mayor. I'm Canadian. I've lived here in Napanee for 15 months. I lived there for 20 years through the decline of Los Angeles, the San Fernando Valley, and Las Vegas. I submit that what we're really discussing is the continuing viability of Napanee as a nice place to live. Toronto is lost, Kingston is lost, Waterloo is lost, Las Vegas is lost, Los Angeles is lost. Napanee is not yet lost. It's in the very early stages of the disease. Action now may save the town of Napanee. Failure to act swiftly will end the town. I also heard the expression, not our mandate. I watched that thing 3 times and printed out all the reports. I heard not our mandate on many occasions. I submit town council was elected with but one mandate: preserve and protect the way of life in the town of Napanee from all attacks, internal and external. I've heard about the legal challenges. Have you set aside sufficient funds to defend the coming negligence suit when a child dies after stepping on an infected needle in one of Napanee's parks? One of Pellis's recommendations was a comprehensive education program for taxpayers, so we can understand better the reasons why our lifestyle is being threatened and hopefully accept the demise of Napanee, like lambs to slaughter. As the homeless drug population increases, expect more of our senior citizens experiencing emergency, life-threatening situations do not have an available EMT ambulance service because the EMTs will be handling drug overdoses. I keep hearing about the constitutional rights of the homeless tenters. I am hearing nothing about the rights of taxpayers in the city of Napanee. This town was built by hardworking farmers, merchants, shopkeepers, restaurateurs, and other taxpayers. Having it destroyed by tenders is unconscionable. On a personal note, I am sick and tired of paying for the bad life choices of the tenders. Everyone knows the hazards of heroin, crack, crystal meth, and fentanyl. The decision to start doing drugs is a personal bad choice. Don't ask me to pay for it. Nope. And for those of you who may have missed it, the United States Supreme Court ruled on the right of municipalities to remove encampments. The 6-3 decision reversed a lower court ruling that severely limited how local leaders can respond as tents pitched in parks, under freeways, and across the sidewalks became increasingly ubiquitous symbols of the homeless crisis. Justice Neil Gorsuch, writing for the majority, concluded that the power to decide how to address homelessness largely rests with local officials. We're not yet there yet in Canada, but this is surprisingly a clear sign of common sense rearing its head. We are not here to solve the homeless problem. We're here to save Napanee. With all due respect, staying within the ludicrous legal bounds means we lose Napanee. I have one more thing to add with respect to the public consultations. I pulled my Acme crystal ball out of the cupboard. Here are the results. The overwhelming majority of homeowners, taxpayers, and voters do not support tent encampments with their inherent increase in crime, decrease in property values, loss of the downtown businesses, health and safety issues. The tenters want to do their thing unhindered. Those are the 2 conclusions that are going to come out of whatever it is that you guys do in terms of these multiple meetings. What do you know? What more do you really need to know before you act? Why delay for who knows how long to do the comprehensive public review just before tonight's meeting? I'm pretty sure you'll have the answers. Mr. Mayor, I watched last week's meeting 3 times, printed out all of the reports. I was struck with how everyone involved from the government side consistently beat the drum of complexity. It's a surefire way to avoid doing anything, while at the same time looking like you're doing something. Last week, the mayor said, and I quote, have accepted the fact that this is going to be a long and involved process, end quote. Every day of delay in taking action is tantamount to delaying cancer treatment when you've received an early detection warning The day for action is on wheels. There is no end in sight. Where is the stake in the sand? 55 years in business, Tommy's successful.
Sorry, sir, we've got to our 5 minutes, so you're more than welcome to send your presentation in to us if you haven't done that already. And if you just want to hang tight, we'll ask and see if council has any questions for Mr. Morrison. Seeing none, thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. Thank you. Next up, we have Richard. Good evening, sir. Whenever you're comfortable and ready, the floor is yours.
I live in Toronto. I'm a Toronto resident, born and raised. In the 70s, I was a police officer with Bill Blair in Regent Park. We had extensive experience with drug, homeless, mentally ill society. We came here today because I recognize that Napanee is a special place. The women and children here must be respected at all times. The drug situation is what's causing your major difficulty. And that's what's making things unpredictable. We cannot have this going on. I don't understand the town, its parks, its locations. You are the shareholders. You are the representatives of the taxpayers here. We all came here today because we're fed up with the situation. And there's two ways you can look at it: in a defensive way and say, look, it's this way, it's that way, it's that way. Or you can be on the offensive position and take action. So I'd like to see some action taken. What is the plan? What is the plan to bring this situation to an end? We cannot allow it to continue. It has to come to a stop.
Thank you, sir. Members of council, are there any questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you, sir, and thanks for your presentation. Next, we have, I believe it's Mary Ann Maroney. Am I correct with the last name? Or is she Mary Ann? The floor is yours, and then Mary. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I also am just a newbie here, and you have a very special place. I've been very fortunate to have lived in many big cities, which they have some beautiful things about big cities as well. But they're challenged right now. Big cities are very, very challenged, and it is imperative that you get on top of this before it breeds. It is a sad situation, and I think as a compassionate society, we need to make sure that we have opportunities for all the different reasons why people are in the situations of homelessness, and that they be supported. But I was speaking to a nurse the other day, and this is the reason why I was here, because she mentioned to me, now I don't know, I didn't have any way I could verify these numbers, but if these numbers are true, it's irresponsible the way that we're using these finances. So I was told that it was $18,000 a month per person for methadone for that. So most people that are on methadone programs and things like that also receive a lot of other social services as well. But if there's 96 people that are in this community using that, just a quick math, it's $20 million. And there's no kind of concept of how to help these people get over this addiction problem. So now I could be wrong. I don't know about these numbers, but this was a mental health nurse that I was speaking to. And so I'd like to put myself forward to help in different ways if there's any committees, but I really urge this community to not let this pass and not get on top of it, because it is a major concern, and you have a gem. This is a beautiful part of the world, and I think there was many good suggestions that came forward tonight. Mainly a cry for help as well. So I don't really have much more to say. Thank you.
Thanks so very much. Any questions or comments, Council? Seeing none, thanks for your presentation. John Stinson is next on us. John? Oh, there he is. John, the floor is yours.
Through your worship, thank you very much to council for hosting this very important meeting. We've heard tonight very many legitimate concerns, covering everything we can almost think of. The question is, what can we do about it? And there have been a number of suggestions. I think one of the important suggestions is that we start with the bylaw that allows you to take ownership for the issues that are really causing a lot of problems in the parks. I guess rather than go through a number of those things, I guess the question that comes to my mind if we do the bylaw, and I think as I watched the last council meeting on YouTube, it sounds like we're fairly confident that we can do that. The question that raises for me is, what else could we do? Is there something else that would make a difference, that would make the bylaw more effective, and in fact the resulting situation more effective? So what I would suggest is that we have a process that includes a number of key stakeholders, and I would include in that process homeless people, okay? And have that process be a process that looks at, what could we do that would make the process of trying to enforce the bylaw and trying to get more than we'll likely be able to get with the bylaw, what could we do that would make that difference? I think it's a big, and I think after final comments after the last meeting said that this is going to be complicated, tricky, take a long time. And I think it will be a challenging process where we do have that. But I think one of the keys in that situation will be there'll be a number of proposals come up that will not be very likely to be successful. We've had experience somewhere in another community. We've had experience in shelters that don't work or whatever. To me, the key question that we need to answer in that process is not what the situation is, but what would it take? Just 4 words, what would it take to do what we think would make a difference? And we might find at the start that there are 5 or 4 or 5 steps that we have to go through where we can't see how to get to the end. You know, we can't see how we could provide Glenn Thompson's comments about tiny homes and the community, etc. If that was a direction that we wanted to go, and we could say, you know, well, we can afford to do that. Well, the question is, what would it take for us to get to the point where we could afford to do that? Could we do that in a way that is outside the way we would normally think about solving that kind of a problem? So that's really what I think needs to be the next step. I think largely what we will do is get the leadership level from Ellis and other places to sit around the table and try to deal with this. But I think a process that really gets down in the weeds and looks to find answers to questions that are likely going to come up is, and every time it runs into that challenge, it looks for what would it take. That's all I had to say.
Okay, thanks, John. Members of council, are there any questions or comments for seeing none, thank you, sir. I think you bring up a good point, and I think what you're going to see in the very near future is some public conversations and some public consultations with our partners in this, and that's really the only way that we're going to get the bottom of the clarity. So thank you for making those comments. Next up, we have Jeff Davis. Jeff, oh, there it is. When you're comfortable, Jeff, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and most importantly, the incredible group of Greater Napanee residents that are showing concern tonight. My name is Jeff Davis, and I live in the city of Oshawa. I have family ties and friends still living in the area of the town of Greater Napanee. As well as being able to provide you with a city of Oshawa outlook and perspective on homelessness and addiction. I've lived and worked in many towns and cities throughout Ontario, Prince Edward Island, and Nova Scotia. And I think I've got a pretty good understanding of what the situation is like across our country. I'm aware of some of the approaches that have been tried, tested, failed, and succeeded. I also have lived experience with opioid painkiller addiction when I was 19 years old. And I have a considerable amount of time living couch surfing, or near homeless, while battling depression. All too often we hear the opinion that homelessness and addiction is everywhere. While true, that's a defeatist attitude in nature. This is a frustrating opinion that offers little to no progress on the root causes of homelessness and addictions. I understand homelessness is mostly a provincial housing matter, and addiction is mostly a health matter shared by the provincial and federal governments. Local municipalities have very little in their toolbox to proactively address either of these growing concerns. It's extremely difficult to address such a complicated and intense issue as homelessness, addiction, and mental health in a 5-minute deputation. So I have provided my notes, along with references to the clerk's office earlier today, and have asked that they be shared with council members and senior staff. I've included my contact information and would be pleased to have a discussion with anybody should you reach out. I know I can't get through this in 5 minutes. I know that even though council has the ability to extend a delegation, that has not been used tonight, and I don't expect it to be used. So I'm gonna ad-lib here a little bit, because I've had the opportunity to hear some incredible deputations this evening. Some that are very much from the heart. Some that are maybe considered NIMBY. But mostly what I've heard here tonight is that if you have a very engaged community who is looking for results. I have to agree with many of the comments that were made tonight. And as I skip through some of my notes, I'd like to mention that the town, or the city of Guelph, will pass a new bylaw this month, September 9th, that has been sitting in limbo for over 2 years. And their bylaw will be a public space usage bylaw that is almost identical to what was presented to them 2 years ago. The residents behind me aren't going to be happy if you sit for 2 years and do nothing like Guelph. Knowing that we have a multifaceted issue, only a part of which can be addressed by the municipality of the town of Greater Napanee. There are some things that the town, as a lower-tier municipality, can do. There's not much you can do about housing except you can mandate a portion of affordable housing in all new developments. Peterborough has done it, and those results should be coming forward soon. You can lobby not only the county, but the province and the federal government to help you with affordable housing. Tenting is not affordable housing. Tenting does not meet building codes. As we've heard earlier, many people are hoping that we will enact some bylaws and enforce those bylaws to take back the town of Greater Napanee. It is time that municipalities started looking at the greater good, the community safety of the general community rather than the individual.
Yeah, thank you, sir. We're at the 5-minute mark, so thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
I know you probably don't have the information that you have, but we're going to be accepted, so thank you very much.
Did you receive that?
We'll take our copy, if not, we can take it electronically, so. Is there any questions for Mr. Davis? Seeing none, thank you, sir, and we appreciate your thoughts. So. Next, George, it's your opportunity, George. George, it's your opportunity. You've got the floor, you've got 5 minutes, so you're more than welcome to get started when you're coming.
Your mayor, panel, town of Greater Napanee. I stood in front of this panel of people a year and a half ago, making you aware of the situation, exactly what we're here discussing today. You guys decided at that point to ignore it and ignore me. Leaving me harassed, attacked, assaulted, not only by the community, but the police force and all the dignitaries in this town. Okay, I have been obstructed, I've been denied access to whatever it is that any other person would have in a human rights. You know who's infuriated? Not myself. I'm a 1%er now. I'm just a regular 99% guy. So the House Angels and the No Mans now back me and they said, listen to this. If you don't get respect, they will come in and demand respect. That's all I need from us, okay? You either do something around here or it'll get done. That's a promise.
George.
I'm sick and tired of discrimination.
George.
It's not right.
George.
Excuse me.
George, this is
I
my
still
meeting.
have the floor.
George.
Go right ahead.
This is my meeting.
Go ahead.
I will control this meeting.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to suggest that you're done.
You had the opportunity a year and
Thank you.
That's correct. Roll on. Ask me and leave me to die on the street, losing my kids.
We're gonna move on, folks. We're gonna move on to, Mr. Galt. Dave Galt. Dave, are you here? Come on up. Sir, it's your opportunity. Sometimes it is, but that's the world we live in. So whenever you're ready, the floor will be yours.
All right. 28 years ago, we moved here. Most of you people would probably know my wife. She started off walking two dogs and 3 kids through town. And then as time gone on, my kids have moved out and she's walking 3 to 4 dogs every day. So she's down in the park a couple weeks ago, and then she got threatened by by a woman there with a dog that she's going to kill my wife, and called her all kinds of names in her book. So we called the cops, and they came down, and they talked to her, but they said that they told my wife that she better stay away from the park. Like, what's going on with this town? Like, as a taxpayer, that we get threatened, we can't even use our own park anymore. And so, like, why are we making this town so attractive? Like, I'm hearing that we get them cell phones, we buy them tents, we give them $1,000 a month. We've obviously made this area a very attractive place for these people to come. That's why we have so many now. We have them swimming or taking showers at the splash pad naked. Like, maybe we should shut the water off there.
Thank you, Dave. Just
I'm just looking at why are we making this town so attractive to attract all these people.
Yeah, we're gonna ask the council and see if they have any questions for you.
Yep.
Okay, and if not, then we're gonna move on. Like I said, and I'll say it again and again and again, we're gonna have a whole lot of other information that's gonna come forward. We're gonna have a public consultation with respect to not only the bylaw, but also with respect to other partners that will probably be able to answer some of those questions for us. So, and that'll be in the very near future. So just bear with me here, council. Is there any comments or questions you have for Mr. Galt? Seeing none, thank you, sir, for your presentation. Next up, we have Marjorie Finley. Marjorie? Oh, there she is.
I'm Marjorie Finley.
The floor is yours when you're ready, Marjorie, so go ahead.
And I came here 40 years ago thinking it was Nepean, but it was Napanee. I'm one of the crazy ladies that does community blooms. All those people. And I can say that we've had no problems with our gardens. I have helped my friend George, who looks and lives beside 2 of my gardens. I've helped him move. I bought tarp. I bought duct tape. I bought water containers, everything for him, and 31 bags of garbage and garbage tags that I paid for while he moves from here to there, and now he's got friends. So, but I have never had any problems with my community gardens. I've got 3 in town. I also pick up all the garbage between the bridge in behind the water filtration plant. 121 bags in the last 4 years. Where did the garbage cans go? We had 4 garbage cans when the house was there. Where did the garbage cans go? If we had garbage cans, maybe they put them in the garbage. But it's not the homeless. It's people who drive through to pick up water or to come down and do their little drug deal, that throw up the Tim Horton cups or the garbage, McDonald's, whatever. It's not the homeless. So I understand that our town does have a problem with homeless right now, but I just got back from England and you have no idea Have you seen Dover where 5,000 immigrants are coming in a day? It's just incredible what's happening in the rest of the world. So I come back to my town and I see a few tents and I know there's issues, but it's nothing compared to what some communities are dealing with. It will be. It possibly will be. But, and we do have to have some foresight in what's gonna happen. But as far as the community blues, we're okay. So just to say, I know a lot of people say, well, they're destroying the flowers. I've seen none of it. And I do 3 gardens, so. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret. Thank you for your definition. Thank you for your perspective.
So
Council?
where do I go to get the garbage cans back?
We have staff has been writing papers today, and I'm sure that they will answer those questions in the very near future. So, council, do you have any questions or comments from Margaret? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next one, we have Catherine O'Neill. Catherine? Catherine? Oh, there she is.
Good evening, council. Mr. Mayor.
When you're ready.
Thank you. I'm new to Napanee. I recently moved here about 16 months ago. I escaped a domestic violent relationship. So I have sought the services of refuge. I have not stayed in a tent. I'm not addicted. And thankfully I don't have mental health issues. However, I live very close to downtown and I've managed to get my own place and move out of Virgin housing. I have a daughter that works at Tim Hortons downtown. She is a minor. There are quite a few minors that work downtown at Tim Hortons. They've had to administer naloxone to grown adults who are ODing in the night. I'm a retired nurse, can no longer practice. However, I have to feel like I have to go down to Tim Hortons to keep an eye on my daughter. I'm thankful she wants to be a medic in the future. She just turned 17. I'll tell you, she has more medic experience now, and she hasn't even started school yet. My question to you is, do you know that you have minors administering naloxone to grown adults? Have you considered a state of emergency in such regard? Thank you. Questions?
Thanks, Catherine. Is there any questions for Catherine with respect to her deputation? Seeing none, thank you again for your perspective. Next, we have Dean and Derek McEwen. Hopefully, I haven't destroyed that, but come on up, please. Or maybe Diane. Dean? Diane. Dean. Sorry, this evening, the floor is yours from here. Thank you.
Hi, council. Good evening. My name is Deanne McEwen. This is my husband, Derek. And I, like many of the citizens here, struggle between compassion and annoyance and fear. My husband and I own 32 Mill Street East, which is right beside the Legion. I run a healthcare injury rehab clinic out of that building. We have dealt with the unhoused individuals living in our garden in the back, leaving garbage, clothing, etc., urinating and defecating multiple times in the garden, and generally making a mess of something that I spend a ton of money on gardeners to clean and to keep nice so that it looks nice from the boardwalk across the river. For the most part, we have tried to be compassionate and just clean up after them, which by the way can be dangerous for us. This past month, things have escalated, as my neighbors have mentioned earlier. I've had to call my husband to come in to help when there was a few people clearly on drugs in the garden and threatening. The Legion and our garden had paint dumped and thrown everywhere including on the beautiful mural on the Legion wall. And then this morning, I was extremely disturbed by the defacing of our property. I found a swastika, yes, a swastika painted on our wall with the word die spelled out. That's pretty scary. I'm not Jewish, but it's still pretty scary. This is a place where all women work. As the days get shorter, I worry about my staff and myself leaving the building in the dark because we can't see down into the garden. And they use it as a passageway from the park up to downtown. And we have locked the gate. We have put signs up. They have broken the locks, cut the locks, torn down all the signs. They don't care. I want to be compassionate, but it's a struggle at this point when they're destroying our property and threatening with the horrible, horrible symbols like a swastika. The question I have for council is what can we do as business owners and property owners to protect ourselves and our property? Thank you.
Council, are there any questions for the viewers with respect to the deputation? Seeing none, thank you folks, and thanks for your respect. Next up, we have Crystal Lynn. Crystal Lynn Pixley. Krista, are you still here? It would appear as though Krista may have left. Normally we would just hold that down to the last one, but Krista was the last person on our list, so it's kind of difficult. So at this point, folks, I just want to thank you for being here. You've been here almost 2 hours. We've heard an awful lot of perspectives with respect to the situation that we're all experiencing. And I think the one thing that we have heard is that there's a lot of perspectives and it's complicated. Contrary to what folks think out there is a complicated situation, especially for a community of just under 17,000 people. So what I can assure you is that we are going to use all the tools in the toolbox that we have, and sometimes it's just not enough. We're going to do that. And in the very near future, there's going to be another public meeting, and I can let Mr. Grant speak to that. He's spearheading that. Mr. Grant, do you want to comment on what we're going in the future?
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Mr. Grant, I'm the Chief Administrative Officer. So in the coming weeks, certainly starting on the 16th, we're going to start a public consultation specifically in relation to the Parks bylaw and the encampments protocol. That is a step in the direction of trying to manage the issue. Between now and that point, I am personally going to continue meeting with our partners, including the OPP, social services, fire department is also here, and we are going to talk about the variety of issues that we're dealing with. The consultation itself, there's going to be an online component. We'd like to be able to share the perspective. We're going to have to use specifically about the places that you would like us to focus on. We're also going to provide education in that about what our abilities are, what the legal environment is, and this is going to be our attempt to manage this as best we can. And we're going to continue to work with our partners, who many of whom have agreed to be at a meeting which is tentatively scheduled for October 1st. So we can answer the questions that are within our power to answer, but we also have our partners there who are going to be able to answer the questions they're able to answer and to explain to you how we're working together. Because in my experience, when I came from the city of Hamilton, where we dealt with this significantly, if we can stand together, then we stand a chance of being able to manage the issue. So that's what's coming in the coming days.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. At this point, We'll look for council to note receipt of many deputations that we heard this evening. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Hicks. There's no further comments, questions, or concerns. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Look for a motion to confirm proceedings. Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Martin. Bylaw ready first, second, and finally passed this third day of September 2024. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And look for a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Hicks. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, folks. It has been a very informative meeting, and we'd like to thank you all for coming.